today, so we'd like to be able to share with them. So I think you will all be getting a little message that says that you accept or give permission to be recorded. And if everybody has their interpretation set up, we're going to get started. ¿Cómo se llama? Acá arriba. Okay, I am, yeah, we're all navigating different computers here and trying and being very silent so you don't hear our echo, but we're happy to be here. And, you know, it's always fresh to begin with, what is the Venice Agreement? What brings us together? And the Venice Agreement, as we know, is a living document, and it represents a commitment by peatland custodians in all of our diversity. We come from different parts of the world. We share a love for peatlands of different sizes, of different colors, of different smells, textures. And we're doing this we're making this effort to gather because we want to change the trajectory of peatland care. And we do this by putting together our experiences locally, from going from effective management to advocacy, really trying to create a new model for participatory conservation of peatlands that's community-based, that's all of the many different values that we use as a group and individually, and that we continue to share. And so the Venice Agreement is this evolving transdisciplinary, decolonial, grassroots conservation tool in a way, because it is, as it grows, it is showing us what it can do for us. And by it is a community. Para allá. Okay. As I get the hang of the presentation. So as I was saying, it's a tool. It's a tool that involves language. It involves poetry. It involves coming together, gathering to share our language and our poetry, our ways of deciding and defining how we name our peatlands, how we describe their value, how we also define our objectives as communities who come to know the ways that peatlands need to be taken into account in this current moment of climate change. And so to acknowledge that this is a tool that we are all co-designing, I want to just do a little icebreaker, a welcoming, right? Many of us will be speaking today, but I think it's important to just hear all of your voices, hopefully see all of your faces. So if for a moment, those of you who are here who can turn on your cameras, please do that. Or if it's just going to be your microphones, but you know, since we're having an echo issue here in this room, I think that the icebreaker will be, let's just do a really loud echo of peatland love and care. So how about that when I count to 3, everybody just turns on their camera, their microphone, and sings at the top of their lungs, Amo las turberas. I love peatlands. I'm all in, whatever is in your heart to say. Ready? Are we ready? More cameras. Please, if you don't turn on your cameras, turn on your microphones. And look, I've got people here who are with me. Are you ready to show your peatland love? Mira. Uno, dos, y tres.
Amo las
Gracias. Thanks, everyone. So as many of us here know, the Venice Agreement has it's a young conservation tool, but it was born from a long collaboration that was over 10 years, and this is a map of that thick, dense, and varied collaboration between scientists and artists and peatland custodians. Locally in Patagonia. So we're very proud that the Venice Agreement is a global South tool. It was born from the extreme archipelago de Tierra del Fuego, and we have a lot of our Fuegian, Cheltenham, Venice Agreement signers here with us. And as we began to do peatland work in Tierra del Fuego, it was always coming from a sense of curiosity, awe, and self-education, working to understand peatlands as we gathered more and more voices who were either doing field work there or who considered those peatlands their kin, their ancestors, and or who had also a organizational commitment to do environmental conservation work. And as you see in this map, there's a point in 2022 in which we took the risk to present the peatland work that we had been doing, particularly in the Chilean side of Patagonia, with La Fundación Ashayé, Ensayos, and WCS Chile at the Venice Biennale. We needed partners in Europe, and we had the support of the Greifswald-Meyer Center, and then TVA 21, Ocean Space in Venice. And as part of that creative work, to think about how to bring the message of peatland value to a larger audience, we decided that it wasn't enough to just put on an exhibition, but that we needed to create another form of continuity that would give us some structure for valuing what we had done. But as always, you know, the work begins in the peatlands, and this is a picture of those that we love in Patagonia. And it happens like this through gatherings that are informal, that are friendly, that also have a lot to do with just being with the peatlands. And acknowledging that there have been people and peatland relations for millennia, that they have been disturbed due to mismanagement of land, due to colonial oppressions, but that as we walk a way forward and as science and art and advocacy join together, we find better ways to recognize, to re-enchant ourselves with what is a bog, a fen, a mire. We pull out our pencils, we devise theater, music, we enjoy the work that we do collectively, and find bigger platforms like this Seminario Binacional de Turberas. And many of those of you who were part of this specific seminar, but also previous ones, are here today. You know, this Venice Agreement is born from work that has been happening on the ground for a long, long time. So I think it's a show of commitment and continuity. And it was through that opportunity that we decided that we had to take something like the binational Seminario de Turberas de Patagonia further, to acknowledge that a Patagonian peatland initiative crosses borders. It goes beyond Chile and Argentina, but also the peatlands are planetary. So wherever we are, we can care for peatlands. Doesn't necessarily need to be tied to those that belong to my country, right? But that it is, their differences can make it so that there are also forms of alliance that are cross-cultural, cross-disciplinary. And this was very clear in Hol Hol Tol, this beautiful Shaknam poem that we have to describe that the heart of the peatland beats independently of the ways in which our nation states have fragmented peatlands and made us different from each other. And this was clear in this exhibition that we did, where we staged an effort to understand the kinds of conservation work that's done in Europe and how that's affecting the ways that we're able to do conservation in the global South. And eventually decided, like I said before, to sort of establish a pattern for moving forward. And that was the first meeting of the Venice Agreement that happened in this space that's in the picture at the TBA Ocean Space. So since that origin story up until now, the Venice Agreement has formalized through 6 encounters, 2 gatherings, in person, so one in Venice and one in Torres Vedras, and we'll be talking about that one more for those of you who weren't there with us. Been 24 underground workshops and 4 online meetings. In 2022, in Venice, we had 235 signers. Many of us need to renew our commitment, and that's what part of this meeting is for. And so far, there are about 300 participants of the Venice Agreement. And those participants are from around 17 countries. So the Venice Agreement 2024 was so joyous because it happened. First of all, let's just acknowledge that. You know, the Venice Agreement was part of an artistic, scientific collaboration, dream, fantasy. And once you're able to repeat it, it means that it's grown beyond the space of fantasy, and it's now putting ideals to reality. And so you see here a list of growing organizations, community groups, and the names of our incredible hosts, W Replay in Torres Vedras, and a new funder, the Andrea von Braun Stiftung. So as our community grows strong, it involves people from all different aspects of what's needed to have a custodianship of peatlands functioning and healthy, which was something we set out to at the beginning with the Venice Agreement. So in 2024, we decided that we would have a physical meeting with very specific objectives. One of them was to assess the VA, decide how we wanted to.
En una reunión.
Adriana, creo que tienes que mutearte porque te escuchamos. Ahí, gracias. So we needed to, or we wanted to, evaluate what we had been doing since we had met last, and what our advances had been, if there had been contributions of the Venice Agreement to the work that we were doing. We wanted to revisit, therefore, the agreement, nurture it, see if it needed new components as new members started to sign it, and grow this community, really, to discuss our roles into the future. So the key questions that we decided to answer at the 2024 gathering was to assess is what have we done in the past 2 years that was directly inspired or reinforcing the agreement. To nurture the agreement, we wanted to know what opportunities or challenges we had been facing in the past 2 years, and to look carefully at the agreement as a document, as a specific narrative that could also be evolving, changing. We decided from the very start that it would be porous and that we could make it so that it reflected new needs and values as time passed and we matured. And to grow the VA community, we thought it would be really important to be transparent and sort of about what it means to hold a community space, and who is doing that holding, and how we could create forms of governance of that community space that reflected this very convivial and non-hierarchical nature of how the Venice Agreement was born initially. So in Torres Vedras, this beautiful locality in Portugal, 47 of us were able to be there. Some had been in Venice, others were new to the space, and we were representing 12 different countries. Here you see us. We were mostly working in municipal spaces, and I think that this was very important because it meant that local government, through W Replay, was supporting us, giving us infrastructure and paying attention. And we managed in this occasion, which is something that we hadn't been able to do in Venice, was to actually visit a peatland. And we met this incredible paleo peatland, and we traveled there with the scientists who know it very well, and were able to interpret that landscape for those of us whose peatlands look differently than the one you're seeing here in the pictures. We had Charo Lanao with us again, and for those of you who haven't met Charo, Charo is from Peru, and she is an incredible facilitator who's always instigating very creative ways in which we can develop our conversation about what the Venice Agreement is and what we want it to do for us. And I think that one of the things that was vital at this 2024 workshop is that we managed to really integrate the underground workshops. So from the very beginning in Venice, we said there's a locality in which some of us are able to meet, but this is about a much larger global network of people doing on the ground, and we won't always be able to meet physically. And this isn't going to be necessarily a hybrid gathering, but it's going to be one in which we prioritize that on the ground work, that local work, and Antonieta Aguren, who will soon be presenting some of the findings from those underground workshops, is really the person who has been holding that space. And to those of you who have participated from there, you know that what you receive is a kit, and you do the work that the people who are meeting in person are doing in your own peatlands, in your offices, with your communities. And all of that information then is analyzed and jetted in, kind of dropped into the 2 days of the in-person gathering. So for 2024, we had 13 locations, 6 countries, 120 people, more than 200 comments. And this time we really were able to integrate that live into the decision-making that was going on in Torres Vedras. And here are some pictures that we received from those beautiful on underground workshops. People sinking into their peatlands, making time to gather online. In that left corner, you see now that we have some Venice Agreement popping up in Jamaica, in mangroves. So we're starting to move into tropical peatlands, and we have Patagonia, and we have Scotland, and groups that are big and small. We have Ushuaia here, gathering from different gathering information in different languages. So as this tool is changing and evolving, we're finding ways in which to keep this conversation very open-ended and inclusive. We had an underground workshop up in the north of Norway, in the offices in Santiago. There was one in Puerto Varas in a library. So sometimes these underground workshops are also an opportunity to just let local people know that this is going on. And that's what I mean about this evolving tool. So what you can see there happening in a library wasn't necessarily people who knew about the Venice Agreement who were gathering. They were hearing about it for the first time. And maybe not everybody signs, but it is it's a chance to be vocal about peatland work. We're really, really, really happy that this happened. And as being somebody who was in Venice, it was incredible to be receiving voices from around the world into that live space. So I'm going to pass it over to Antonieta, who will tell us a little bit about how that happened.
So I'm so sorry that you still hear an echo. Some people said in the chat, we are in the same room, we are mute all, but yeah, we cannot control that, sorry. So in total, for the 2024 Venice Agreement, we have 17 countries and 14 locations around the world. We have around 220 people participating. And just to give you a quick view of what we discussed, what we accomplished. And here is the first question about what have we accomplished in the past 2 years. And we have many different activities, but we can see that we have accomplishment regarding awareness about peatlands at different levels, policy, public awareness, environmental education. We also have fundraising and many efforts to collaborate with the private sector, identify new opportunities of funding. We have knowledge generation, a lot of advances in the inventory of peatlands in different scales, new study and publication, and also the work with different knowledge systems. We have new knowledge regarding peatlands from indigenous people, for example. The cultural, spiritual, and ancestral values, we create time and space for storytelling. We also have some experience in values recognition and sharing opportunities. Also, we have accomplishment in protection and restoration of peatlands, participation in project and reaction, rewetting experience, and other innovative practices. And finally, we have accomplishment in networking and collaboration. So participation in different events, people that have been presenting the Venice Agreement in different spaces, hosting networking opportunities that may be from the underground workshop, then they have other meetings to continue working on that collaboration link for peatland work. So we have many different things that people are doing around the world regarding our peatlands. How do we assess the Venice Agreement as a collective effort? Here are some ideas of how we are measuring, how we can measure the Venice Agreement advances. One is the strengthening local engagement, so we can have some qualitative indicators, for example, the collective storytelling holding spaces. Also regarding surfaces and uses, this is more like a quantitative indicator of number of hectares of peatlands under protection. Maybe we can measure the changes in that indicators around the world in different many years. Communication impact, also the number of citations, number of searches, number of followers, if we have social media. Political incidents, the number of political processes regarding peatland where the Venice Agreement member or group have influence, and also some people talk about participation. So how we measure the number of people participating in the Venice Agreement community, the number of exchanges of information among the Venice Agreement community, but also with other people, and the total signatories. So these are some ideas of how we can start to measure our agreement. Regarding the opportunities, so there were so many opportunities that I don't have like specific examples, but there are many opportunities at different spaces and levels, and I think that is great to share that people recognizes different spaces for these opportunities: the environmental education and tourism, policy, culture, funding, and for the Venice Agreement community specifically, and also different spectrum. We have opportunity at the personal level, organizational level and outreach. So outside the Venice Agreement community, and the audience is bigger, right? So yeah, we haven't organized all the information, but we start to have like a system. So we already have these spaces that I think is great to see where we can start to work, right? Challenges, we have many different challenges too, and here the bigger bubbles are the most important for the people. So the lack of environmental education and public awareness regarding peatlands. Peatlands are usually not very visible in many places and countries. So that is a huge theme that people don't know what are peatlands, turberas, or any name that they have. Poor legal and political frameworks. For example, there's no global definition for peatlands, and that is something that create a difficult framework in the political actions. Peatland threats control, so control the threat that we have in peatlands is very difficult in some places. There's no scientific information in some places. There are cultural attitude and traditional livelihood that are sometimes not beneficial for peatlands. There is a lack of funding, and also there is some lack of collaboration spaces. So I think those are the result that I can share. Cami is coming back.
So this effort to synthesize those results, yeah, thank you to everybody who has participated in them. I think they're really revealing of how much we are learning from this experience, cross-referencing our challenges, our opportunities, and eventually we will be able to better help each other and assist each other through this. And so the Venice Agreement itself as a document is one that is growing. So we now have the 2024 agreement, as you can see here on the screen, and you will all be receiving it. I think already you can see just a kind of an overview of some differences graphically. You know, the challenge as we grow as a community is that it is now very it's not as easy to have all these little dots on the map, and so on the map side, we are finding ways to better make room for more peatlands being mapped, more peatland people appearing in representation of their communities. But the exercise that we did in Torres Vedras was to take all of the underground workshop information and see what that would mean in terms of what we can change of our needs and our values. The original poem, this sort of declaration or ode to peatlands stayed exactly the same. I think that will always be there. It's a kind of, it was kind of a first declaration of peatland song. I hope that we will have many, many more poems, but for now, that was something that was untouched. What we worked a lot on was our needs and our values. And I won't go through all of the changes. You will all be receiving this, but I just want to point out a couple of things, and that is that we, first of all, because there was in-person in Torres Vedras, we did not have anybody representing Indigenous communities. We had Indigenous communities information through underground workshops, but we didn't change anything in the needs or values that referred to Indigenous communities because there wasn't anybody editorially there who could kind of give the final approval. And so that was very important. And that was then communicated to our Indigenous counterparts, and they appreciated that. There was still, there was entry again of phrases in this kind of red and blue, as you know, of things that are more formal and informal. But For the main, I would say that some of the main new elements that appeared is that we talk about the need to really reinforce the circularity of funding, and so that we acknowledge the different ways in which from the global south, we are underfunded, different to the global north, and how we can really continue the mutuality of generosity into the future. And this is this small little red mention of Pásame la plata. Yeah, give me the money. And, I think we are a community that is being quite transparent, the ones with the other, and really trying to come up with ways in which we can all help out. We talked a lot about peatlands as wetlands and freshwater. I think that in 2022, we had more talked about peatlands as carbon sinks and their cultural value, but really thinking about peatland waters was something that was very important this time around. So you will all be receiving the 2024 agreement, and you'll be able to better compare it with the 2022. And as we devise how we are going to continue to recommit to the agreement, we'll be letting you know, but it's going to be a kind of rolling signature base.
Hey, you all, I'm so happy to see so many of you. This recommitment that Camila was talking about, it was also something agreed in this 2024 process. We're always thinking, how is the VA community going to grow? And there were some decisions made at this time. One is that we are an open-ended community of peatland people. That's what the Venice Agreement stands for. And we encourage a community that is diverse and representative in different ways. We, as an example, it's continents, but among all its diversity. And that is something we'll definitely be working for. And in order to become a signatory, we always say the VA signatories, what was defined to be the most important thing is anyone who signs is subscribing to the VA values. And those values are the ones who we keep working with and strengthening, and they're the baseline of everything we do. So if you want to become a signatory, you have to subscribe to those. And if you only want to do that, and then you can be a VA friend. And if you want to take your commitment one step forward, you can become a V8 member. And we discussed a lot around what should you do, what it's to be a member. So members have to first care for a peatland. It can be a specific one. It can be all peatlands in the world. You can decide. All members, we have to celebrate World Peatlands Day. We have to address at least one need. So in the posters, you will see, if you haven't yet, there's a list of needs that, again, we're revisiting for now every 2 years. So at least we have to say, okay, there's one I want to be working for in advancing. We also have to meet the VA community every year. For now, we have been having 2 gatherings a year. Every 6 months, we do a meeting like this. Sometimes it's in person, as when discussing, but we at least once a year, we have to get together. And also to translate the agreement into our languages, or if it's already translated, or we work with people from that use other languages, that we can also bridge the translation for others. The Venice Agreement original poster is in English, and it has some Spanish things, but of course, if we don't translate it into our native tongues, then it's not going to be able to be shared. So that's one commitment as well. And there are already 2 translations for the poster 2024. There's one undergoing And the last one is we have to contribute to the knowledge exchange and to find ways to spread the love for peatlands. And it's something that comes really natural for most of peat people. So again, every time the Venice Agreement changes, something we decide is we have to email everyone so they can renew their vows, because if we'll be changing the contents of what we value, what we need, then it's really important that we don't just get the list of subscribers and say once for some document they said they agreed to this, so every 2 years we can renew our vows. Even if we want to have a long-lasting relationship, we'll be renewing our vows every 2 years. And so we'll be telling you more about what we count.
Hi everyone, nice that I can talk to you now, seeing all your faces and names. It's really exciting. I'm going to tell you a little bit about one main finding we had, which is the need to have our own web platform, not just as a representative tool, but as a kind of community infrastructure. And we spent quite a lot of time in Torres Vedras, or some of us, to gather like from the needs and from the ideas and the kind of opportunities that people have sent in, and that were also kind of talked about in Torres Vedras. Some of the kind of ideas and tools to build a space that is really by and for a community of practice, or a community of peatland custodians, and that is a participatory database where we can share some of the work, some of the knowledge generated, some of the tools, and kind of ideas and practices that are within the community. We're also thinking about it as a linking and learning hub, and a space for sharing stories and activities from the ground. And as you can see in this wild map, there's quite some ideas about how that web platform can really be structured, and that it should be also very much be based in the peatlands that people are living in and working in and active in protecting. So we had the ideas about the peat glossary, which kind of links back to the translations, and also thinking about a kind of map that that kind of shows where people are really based and from where knowledges and politics of peatland protection are emerging from. So, but yeah, for this, we need La Plata. We're still not in a space of actually, being able to construct a large base like this with the current resources we have. So we're hoping that both in terms of participation and of funding, we will be able to generate something like this together in the future very soon. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what is next. So at the moment, for the general functioning of the Venice Agreement community, we are kind of continuously, but especially after this year's big meeting, in processes of evaluating still also the kind of findings, ideas, impulses, and needs that have come up in the underground workshops and in the meeting, and also reporting, which is basically a form of transparency and accountability within the community to share the knowledge that kind of we process as organizing committee, but also as a community as such. And for this, for example, this meeting is very important so that you all get an idea of what is happening. And a very important part is also to think about finance sustainability. That means currently, I mean, we have some co-financing through the Andrea von Braun Foundation, but also the involved organizations are putting in a lot of effort and co-hosting, for example, the Torres Vedras Agreement, etc. So there is a lot of different kind of resources that are being put to task in keeping this going. But we are thinking about futures, and also as I'm talking about these things, all of you and all of us are invited to kind of think about these things together, because it is like a larger challenge that we face as a group, as a community. And there are particular tools at the moment. The website I already introduced. So we're working on a smaller version of an already existing website, which will be kind of making more information available. But we would also like to really think about this larger web platform as I introduced it. And as already Cami and Nico were introducing, the VA poster is an important tool to share some of the commitments, the kind of practices and also languages around the VA as a tool and as a community further, and to think about it from different peatland localities and different peatland realities. So we're really encouraging translation, and hereby I'm the person who's sending a lot of emails, so you're getting a lot of emails from me. So yeah, please, if you feel like you can translate or you would like to translate, also in a collective process or in your own time with your language community or within your peatland community, please get in touch. So at the moment, and Caroline is going to introduce that too, there's a translation that was made into Norwegian. Nico and some other people worked on the Spanish translation, so that's also ready. And Svante and I are working on the German translation, which is going to be ready very soon. So that's really exciting, and we really think that like translating the VA also will generate more kind of peatland literacy in some way. So we will be able to talk more from and within and across different peatlands and peatland communities. And then next steps also for the VA community is kind of a continuing communication, and also a very big kind of outcome and really beautiful outcome of the VA meeting in Torres Vedras is that we have a new organizing committee, which is not completely new, but is very expanded. So it's really, really beautiful. And this is like a kind of big joy and celebration moment that Leonard Aquani, who's going to talk very soon, Fernanda Olivares, Miguel, Miguel, who was one of the main hosts in Torres Vedras. I'm sorry, I just forgot, I blanked the last name. And also Irene van Dolderen is a part of the organizing committee now. So we're now an expanded committee, which includes even more kind of locales and practices and kind of peatland swampy bases. And yeah, so that's a very big joy. And thank you also to Leonard and Fernanda and Irene and Miguel for being up for this really exciting new process. And what am I doing? I am passing over to Leonard because one of the big next steps is to plan the 2026 gathering. So the next biannual meeting, which Leonard has invited to the Papyrus peatlands in Lake Victoria in Kenya, in the Eastern African region. And Leonard is going to tell us a little bit about that, these ecosystems, these communities, and we're also in a way launching this the fact that we're going to gather and convene 2026 in Lake Victoria, and also encourage like more community outreach and kind of thinking with also African communities around the VA and what that can be. So yeah, over to you, Leonard. Should I mute myself?
No. Thank you, Susa. Can you hear me? Okay, so I will give a presentation on Lake Victoria papyrus peatlands. I'm Leonard Aquan. I work with Conservation International, but also involved in grassroots activities towards conservation of Lake Victoria papyrus wetlands and peatlands. Next slide, please. So just to introduce Lake Victoria and its basin, Lake Victoria is the largest freshwater tropical lake, and of course, the second largest freshwater lake in the world after Lake Superior in America. This lake is shared by Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And this lake is supporting over 47 million people. But if you look at this lake, it's facing many challenges. But what we derive from this lake is fisheries, and then there are other services that we get from Lake Victoria, which are very critical for human beings, but also for biodiversity. Next slide, please. Now we have Lake Victoria papyrus peatlands. Now, if you look at Lake Victoria Basin, it hosts peatlands ecosystem in many places within the basin, whether they are in the mountainous areas of the catchment, or they are in the midstream area of the catchment, or they are around the shoreline, the ones which we are calling fringing wetlands. So there also we have peatlands within the fringing areas of Lake Victoria. Now, if we look at these peatlands and wetlands, they supply a lot of benefits to human beings and also host a lot of biodiversity, whether fisheries, whether local animals that are associated with this landscape. They are very key in carbon sequestration and storage, offering material art, raw materials for material art, fish breeding areas, and also helps in control of floods and also in recharge of aquifer. So peatlands around Lake Victoria then are not only for carbon sequestration or storage, but they also offer water purification, habitat for fish, and material for. So this is very critical. And as you can see in the map, there's Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania within the shoreline, and that's where we have the papyrus peatlands. Next slide, please. So these peatlands are under threats. There's a study which was done by Nile Basin Initiative and Greifswald Meyer Center. And we see that there's a lot of drainage and conversions of these peatlands being driven by agriculture. We are very strong agrarian community. Infrastructure, roads, dams, then there are settlements because this area is very densely populated. So there's a lot of settlements that are leading into the clearing of these peatlands, urbanization, climate change is a very key, and then of course there is pollution around. And as you can see from these results from this study by Nile Basin Initiative and Michael and Greifswald Meyer Center, Burundi on the other side leads in the drainage of peatlands, 90%, Rwanda 75%, Uganda 25%, and then Kenya and Tanzania at 10%. So there's a lot of peatlands that are going through drainage. Next slide, please. Now there is a need for action, and this is what the efforts that we are making either as civil society organizations, as local communities, and especially amplification or translation of Venice Agreement into local communities. So there is need for action. One of the action that is needed is baseline information so that this can inform conservation. There is need for education and awareness for behavior change and desired actions. There is need for enabling environment. For instance, how can we make peatlands part and parcel? We cannot create isolated legislative documents for peatlands, but we can mainstream them in the mainstream documents like integrated development plans and NDCs. If they are there, then funding can be availed and they can be protected and restored. So there is need for conservation action to keep peatlands wet through rewetting, but also ensuring that there's adaptive management within these sites to conserve peatlands of Lake Victoria and of course peatlands of Africa. And of course also livelihood is a key driver of the changes that we see in these peatlands. So if we can have a peatlands friendly value chain or paludiculture or climate smart agriculture, then this will be great. And then of course, we need to tap on these multiple services that are offered by peatlands for water security, and also to bring in investments to conserve these peatlands. Next slide, please. So just sharing Lake Victoria, there are a lot of peatlands, but also if you see those red areas, those are areas we have fringing peatlands, but also those are the areas we have fish breeding areas. And therefore, by conserving these peatlands and papyrus wetlands, there's a lot we can do in terms of even conserving fisheries and biodiversity. Next slide. And of course, these are beach management unit areas with papyrus wetlands. And of course, working with these beach management units, which are grassroots organizations for management of fisheries, we can conserve peatlands, because then the value of those peatlands can come into them. And we are doing some of this project with Conservation International. Next slide, please. So this is community fish reserves, whereby you have the riparian papyrus peatlands and wetlands conserved for fish breeding. Then you have fish breeding area where there is no fishing, and then you have the right fishing zone. So conserving peatlands can also lead to conservation of these fisheries and also improvement of livelihood. So there's a lot of multiple benefits to be secured. Next slide, please. Next slide. This is the same arrangement. That was raw and one BMU. This is another BMU, having riparian area, having the right fishing zone, and then of course the riparian area where you have the papyrus peatlands for conservation. Next slide, please. And of course, the community is coming up to protect these riparian areas to ensure that those riparian areas are protected. Of course, they're using the native vegetation. This one, we call it our freshwater mangroves that they use to protect the riparian areas. Next slide, please. And of course, the native fish species are going. So one of the actions we are doing, even as we conserve wetlands and papyrus areas, we are restocking this area with native fish species, and women are at the forefront of protecting these areas, because if the fish is few, then issues of gender-based violence becomes problematic in some of these areas. So we are restocking these areas with fish, even as we conserve the wetlands that are there in the riparian areas and the peatlands. Next slide, please. So as you have heard from Susa, Venice 2016, hopefully will be in Kisumu, so welcome. And as we say in Kiswahili, karibu. So Kisumu is situated in Winam Gulf of Lake Victoria. It has papyrus wetlands and peatlands. So if you come on 2016, you'll have the opportunity to see some of these wetlands and peatlands. It's also a gateway to East and Central Africa through its airport and road network. Just next door, we have the River Nile and even the source of River Nile. Let's go back, please. I'm almost finishing. And then, of course, even Kisumu hosts a Lake Victoria Basin Commission, its headquarters. We have rich and diverse in art, culture, and cuisine. Fish, a lot of fish, very many culture, music, and whatever. You will enjoy this. And then also Kisumu is a critical part of Kenya Western Circuit ecocultural tourism in terms of lakes, rivers, wetlands, islands. Impala Sanctuary in Dere Island. We have birds, Luo Cultural Homestead, and of course, Dunga Papyrus Boardwalk. This is a papyrus wetland where you are seeing that boardwalk. That is the wetland where I nurtured my work on wetlands. And then, of course, also this is home to the celebrated and Oscar Award winning actress, Lupita Nyong'o. So welcome to Kisumu in 2016. And we will enjoy the peatlands of Lake Victoria and many other things. Next slide. Thank you and welcome and karibu.
Thank you so much, Leonard. So exciting. The room is very animated here. You can feel everybody really wanting to be in Lake Victoria in 2 years. And yeah, we're working towards this, and I'm leading over to the next part of our meeting. So basically, this was more an introduction of like what's going on within the Venice Agreement community, and how we're working and what are the perspectives. And now for this meeting, we invited 3 more contributions from actual peatland work. Eso? And yeah, so I'm going to introduce the 3 speakers who we invited. So one of them is Fernanda Olivares, who's part of the organizing committee, and who's also, as you heard from Cami, one of the people involved in the very, very, very beginnings of the Venice Agreement, which basically was born also out of the peatlands of Tierra del Fuego and Patagonia. So we're going to hear a little bit from Fernanda, who is part of the Shagnam community in Tierra del Fuego, and also leads Hashsaye, an organization which is dedicated to strengthening Shagnam culture and promote the protection of the ancestral home of Shagnam people, the Isla Grande in Tierra del Fuego. And after that, we're going to hear from Caroline Tampere, who is an artist. I'm going to introduce a little bit later. And our third contribution today is by David Felipe Ramirez, who is new to the Venice community. So it's also very beautiful because everyone who's been speaking has been involved since quite a while. And so with David, who is based in the Muisca community in the Tunjo peatland in Bogota, we're going to also hear somebody just joined these gatherings. So I will hand over to Fernanda. And Fernanda, you can share your screen directly.
Thank you. Hello, it's nice to speak to all of you. It's nice to see some old known faces. And okay, so I was told I only have 10 minutes, so I'm gonna just start. So if I freeze sometime, please just interrupt me and let me know, because my internet connection has been really unstable during this meeting and the whole week. So as Susa said, I'm Fernanda Olivares. I'm from the Selknam community, Covadonga Ona. We live in Tierra del Fuego, in Chile. Right now, I'm in Punta Arenas, and that's it. And that's me for now. I'm going to talk to you about Pakelia Holhol, which is the peatland that we are being involving ourselves more often. We have more connections to it because different reasons. First of all, for those of you that don't know where is Tierra del Fuego, it's in the south of the American continent. Is this island? I don't know if you see my arrow, but in Tierra del Fuego, I live nearby the north part, and Pakelia Holhol is more southern. It's over 300 kilometers from my place, and it's a protected peatland because it's inside the Carguincas Park, which has all the peatlands protected inside. I'm not going to talk too much about it because there's a lot of people from WCS here, so in another moment they can teach you all about it. But we work together since 2018 and with more strength since 2020. And right now this peatland is been really nice to us, so we have a special love for it. How did we name it? The first thing I have to say is not because we, the Selknam community, asked for it. The park rangers, they are working with us, and since 2019 or 20, they ask our help in different translation for the the trails, and for some animals they want to put into these signs into the trails. So at one point they said, look, this peatland is named, or we know this peatland after a scientist that come often to do some studies, and we really want to give an original name, an ancestral name. And they asked our foundation, Hasaye, that we can propose some names. So we gave, I think, like 3 or 4 names, and they pick one. And this Pakelia Holhol, it means the peatland that heals. So it's how it feels, actually. I think they picked the right name. It's really big, vast, and it's beautiful with snow and with water, with clouds, with sun, except when it's dry. It's beautiful anyway, but in summer it gets dry and it's a little bit sad. But how do we relate, or how my community view the peatlands in general? For a better understanding, I think I have to start by telling you that for certain people, the whole island is an ancestor. So if you see lakes, lagoons, the sea itself, birds, animals in general, the mountains, the calafates, the trees, forest, every single rock is an ancestor that a long time ago, millennia ago, they decided to just lay down and rest. And then they decided again not to wake up, so they just became part of the landscape. And the peatlands in specific, they not only provide us with fresh water, with spiritual guidance and support, food, they also are part of our history as cemeteries and a communal space where we can gather and we can, just be ourselves, because in the big city of Porvenir is really big city of around 7,000 people. Yeah. We have almost no peatlands around. We have some, but they're private. The whole island is private. So when we try to know another peatland, when we know the existence of another peatlands, and we simply cannot go because the owners of the land, they don't mind, they don't care, and they don't trust and everything. So yeah, we have more connections, of course, with the peatlands of Caruquinca Park because the doors are opened, and not just because they don't have any doors, but because the organization is really a good friend with us. And how do we relate to the peatland right now? More specific, in or with Pakelia Holhol. As I mentioned, we only have known Pakelia for no more than 4 years. And it's been a long process because first we had to know what peatlands were. We had no idea that this kind of wetland existed. For me, I think I discovered after I heard my mom talking about it, past the 2021. So basically for me, it was that the first step. Trying to understand what was a wetland beside the beautiful landscape that you can find and maybe take a picture. And then discovering that peatlands are this great ecosystem, but it was not only understanding that it's an ecosystem for the island, for the animals, and for the water cycle, but also for myself, for my community, and for my culture. So it was a big process, and the first step, of course, is read about it. Then we got the opportunity. This picture was taken in 2021 when my community went to the park. Well, not the whole community, but most of it. And we got to put our feet into the peatland. It was snow, it was October, so it was really nice, the weather, because we got sun, we got wind, we got snow. I don't know, every season which you can imagine that exists and doesn't exist, we experienced that. And just to understand what it feels to be there, Barbara, that I saw you around, she explained to us how the sphagnum can get a lot more water than it weighs, and every single detail on that trip triggered that we wanted to know more about it, that we wanted to see the way to protect it. And well, we're still looking for this way to protect it, but we also found a way to engage in a different level, not only the scientific one, with Pakelia. So since 2021 until now, we have been visiting this peatland. We have been walking around it and getting to know how the animals interact with it, how the fruits can grow or not grow according to the season, and how the birds can or cannot go and make a nest around it, how different birds can go and eat the eggs from the birds in the peatlands and everything. And this picture was taken last week, and after a long time waiting, we finally get the time to make some of the actions we wanted to do, and not in the scientific way again, but more into the revival of our culture. The community went to the park last week, and the plan was creating this kawi, this structure, which is synonym for house. It was not finished because there was a lot of kids, and yeah, that was the main idea, was making it bigger and everything, but this is what they got. Basically, is a lot of big trunks. I don't know how to say it, troncos. They create a structure, and then you start covering it with little sticks, with mud, and everything you can do, sometimes with leather. That in this case was not possible because the guanaco is protected, so we cannot go in around just getting guanaco leather. And in this way, making this kawi is also bringing to life again the essence of our culture. So this is just some meters away from the peatland. You can see behind Gemani's head part of it. It's kind of remembering how things were done. We have no one to teach us how the kawis were built. We have no one to teach us how the materials were selected to build them. But in the making process, we can try to understand the logics of how to create these kind of things, because they have to not just be nice to look at. They have to have the purpose of having living creatures inside, protected from the wind, from the snow, from the rain, and from the sun. So this was the first step to try to reconnect with this part of the culture that in the physical way we have been really apart. We've been more focused right now on the language part and different kind of expressions, but not the physical one like this in particular. So this is how we are trying to connect with the peatland. Pakelia in this matter is not only the peatland that hosted this experiment, but also was a nice place. I wasn't there, but all the people involved in this project and experiment, they were really, at the end of the day, they were really grateful, and they were calm and relaxed. So yeah, I think they were healed by the peatland at the end. So this is Pakelia. This is what I wanted to share. Yet I can cars. Thank you very much. And yeah, that's it.
¡Wow! ¡Qué admiración! ¡Felicidades! Gracias. Las acompañamos en ese trabajo demasiado valioso. Thank you. Thank you so much, Fernanda. It's really, really beautiful to hear this process, and also the kind of reimagining in the face of so much erasure that is happening with this peatland and the healing process in it. I'm aware we're a little bit short in time, so the next two speakers, Caroline and David, I'm kind of, unfortunately, I think we have to try and make it quite not so long. So I will just hand over to you, Caroline, directly. Caroline is an artist based in Norway in the Baltics, and working with the Venice Agreement since the very beginning, from what I understand, from the VA founding in Venice in 2022, and really working at these intersections of arts and these transdisciplinary and community processes, and also talking about how peatlands can be nurturing grounds for exactly that. So thank you. And also thank you in this moment for the translators bearing with us. And yeah, over to you, Caroline.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you, Fernanda. So I will be speaking about this place. This is a peatland-rich area called Ravnemotke-Finnheia, which is in the north of Norway, where I'm sitting. And I'm gonna show you on the map where it is, so you will get a more better idea of where it is. So you see in this map here, this is where I'm speaking to you from. It's a polar night, so it's cold and dark, and it might be also some noise coming from the street because of the snow. They're cleaning a lot of snow at the moment. This is the place where I'm
Caroline,
located.
sorry.
Yes.
It's very low, the volume for us. I don't know if that's the
Okay.
same for everybody else listening, but if you can, kind of get your microphone a bit closer to your mouth.
Is this better? Not really. Oh, very strange.
Medium. We hear you, but
okay.
thank
I
you.
can try to speak very loud. Is this better? Yeah, okay. Then I'm gonna shout in my office. It's okay. So yeah, the previous picture was showing you this, the location here. And now we're zooming in. This is Sápmi, and it's indigenous lands of Sweden, Norway. It's going across the territories of Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Russia. It has several language areas, and I'm in the northern Sami language area. And I wanted to present to you very shortly ongoing projects that's been happening now in 2024 since March, which has been two group exhibitions, one here in Tromsø, or Romsa, as it's named in Northern Sami language, and in Tallinn and Estonia. I will only present to you what is located here in relation to these peatlands that I was briefly showing you in the beginning, which is Ravnemotke-Finnheia. And it was a symposium that happened here in September 2024, where also there was a presentation about Venice Agreement by Carlo Machiavelli, which is very, very nice. Also Repeat were invited to be here and have a workshop for the local activist youth organization named Nature and Youth. So what we were doing, we were presenting both local organizations and national in Norway organizations who are all engaged with different kinds of peatland work, also scientists. Since I have short time, I'm just gonna jump around a little bit. So this is one of the days where we were out in the peatland Ravnemotki Finnheia. Ravnevadgi is also different name, different location of this area. This is a 20-minute drive from Romsa, Tromsø, which is the big city here in the north. And while out walking, we were presented to learning from the peatland, from the different scientists who were present, as well as engaging in the local activist work, which is still currently going on, because this area of Ravnemadji Finnheia, it looks like this in official as an official planning map. So it is 40 years of planning to remake this peatland-rich, recreational, also important cultural Sami heritage area into an Arctic ski resort. This is a very important area because of the cultural history here, which is present in terms of it has been an important summer reindeer herding site before the displacement of the reindeer herders from who were not allowed to cross the borders to Norway in 1920s because of the rules that were made between the two nation states of Norway and Sweden. This is a very important history, and pretty recently the city of Tromsø, this region, have become aware of it. So it is of course also an important part of trying to stop this enormous crazy development of this Arctic ski center. So together with Repeat, especially the Nature and Youth had workshops. We're trying to, or initiating a counter mapping of the area. It's a big engagement also for the local residents. The local residents are not many here, but they have been living there most of their lives. Some are Sami, some are Verde. Verde is kind of a host family for the Sami peoples when they came to this area back in the days. And so there is also close to reindeer herding area, as well as sheep farming. And sheep farming in Norway is like, it's a pretty small scale, and the sheep are also roaming freely in these areas. So here we see one of the local residents, Ane Elene Johansen. She's 40 years old, and throughout her whole life, she has been living in a family who have been fighting against this Arctic ski center. So another important book to find information and knowledge about the great displacement that was happening in not only this area, but this area in specific, is now also translated to English. It's The Rock Will Echo Our Sorrow, The Forced Displacement of the Northern Sami by Elin Anna Labba. And where we're sitting here around the fireplace, this was also part of the same day when we were walking. It's quite a distance to walk, and we were 35 people. It was a great interest to join these different days of the symposium. So here we have Hanna Horsberg Hansen, who is giving an introduction to the knowledge and to the cultural heritage sites, which are pretty invisible if you do not know about them, of course. And Arctic Ski Center, they are talking about protecting them and using it as some sort of a tourist attraction. This is another work which is also dealing with the area and with the history, which was a live performance with Andreas Kuhne, Polina Medveda, and Ristin Anine Gaup. And Ristin Anine Gaup is a Sami actor and a yoiker. So she made a yoik for this area, and that is a vocal tradition for the Sami. And I think my time is maybe running out, but I wanted to show you just a last moment, and that is what happened after the symposium. After the symposium, um, we installed also Tromsø Kunstforening, Tromsø Art Center, which was also the base for this symposium, with the artistic responses and some elements that had been in the exhibitions. And it was created to be a mediation space for 300 youth in Tromsø. And we had great mediators on board, Kristin Risan and Mathilde Stubmark. And here we see the counter mapping, how it was installed and how it was worked on from Repeat and Nature and Youth and other people who got involved, and some details from that. And then when the youth were doing their collages, all engaged and all actually against the Arctic ski resort. And everyone were also very engaged in protecting the peatlands. And the Venice Agreement was actually also very much used as part of the collage by those who were inspired by that, and that were many. And one of the youngsters also wrote a really beautiful poem. I guess it was inspired by the Venice Agreement, and that is recorded and was also present in the space. Sorry for this speed version, but I hope you got something out of it.
Thank you so much, Caroline. This was really wonderful to follow. I'm going to hand over directly to Felipe. Felipe, sorry, to David Felipe Ramirez Bernal, who is, as I said, a member of the Muisca community del Tunjo. Tunjo is the name of the peatland where they're based in. It's in Bogota, and we just met a week ago, so it's a very spontaneous joining of David. And I'm really, really happy that you're here. And David is part of this community who runs a kind of Casa di Pensamento, so a house of thought, and an experimental youth center in the area. And the community is defending and taking care of this particular wetland called Libellula wetland and El Tunjo peatland system. And David is also a weaver, artisan, and youth counselor, and currently studying community education with an emphasis on human rights. So thank you, David. David, thank you for joining, and over to you. And we have the slides for you here. Yeah, and David will speak in Spanish and be translated by Pablo into English.
Eh,
Hola, David.
bueno, entonces, buenos días para todas. No sé si me escuchan. Ok, bueno, mi nombre es David Ramírez Bernal. Yo pertenezco a la comunidad muisca del Tunjo. Hago parte de la Casa de Pensamiento del Centro Experimental Juvenil, la cual queda ubicada entre las localidades de Ciudad Bolívar y Tunjuelito. Em, como digo, pues queda ubicada entre las localidades de Ciudad Bolívar y Tunjuelito al sur de Bogotá. Y pues desde allí venimos haciendo hace 23 años más o menos eh, un trabajo de reforestación, de recuperación de el humedal La Libélula, complejo de humedales del Tunjo, que pues es este ecosistema que estamos viendo en pantalla. eh, el cual pues hace 23 años era un lugar donde la gente botaba escombros, donde la gente botaba basura, contaminaba muchas fuentes hídricas y nuestros mayores, nuestros abuelos, nuestros ancestros de la mano pues otras comunidades indígenas, además, empezaron una labor de espiritual y física de recuperación pues de este entorno, de este ecosistema, que para nosotros hoy en día pues es nuestro lugar sagrado, igual también ante patrimonio distrital, está catalogado también como un sitio sagrado dentro de pues eh, y pues allí lo que venimos haciendo también, pues junto a la siembra de árboles, es enseñar también a la gente, pues que sembrar un árbol, que sembrar una planta, pues tiene también toda una implicación de cuidado, una implicación también de respeto espiritual hacia la tierra, de arraigo también hacia una identidad, hacia el cuidado del territorio donde hemos nacido, donde hemos criado, que a partir de la siembra también empezamos a reconocer otras especies que habitan en el humedal o en el territorio, que son sagradas también, eh, que como lo decían los compañeros y las compañeras hace un momento, pues no es nada más para ir a tomarse la foto, como el tema de el desarrollo paisajístico, sino que son sitios también que habitan otras formas de vida, que son sitios también donde se dan ciertas características para que estas formas de vida tengan alimento, para que tengan una calidad del aire limpio, ¿sí? Para que cohabiten también en armonía. Eh, pues bueno, aparte de esto también, pues los más de 5.000 árboles que hemos sembrado a lo largo de estos 23 años, 24 años, son árboles de especies nativas que son también especies medicinales y desde allí pues como utilizamos las plantas de nuestro territorio para hacer desde la mano de los abuelos y las abuelas las medicinas tradicionales que dejamos como pueblo indígena muy nativo de estos territorios de Colombia, de Bogotá, de Bogotá, de Cundinamarca, de Santander. em, y pues desde allí entonces pues, nos encontramos todos los domingos en nuestra casa de pensamiento, que es el centro experimental, y desde allí pues convocamos a mucha gente, tanto indígena como no indígena, que nos acompañe a sembrar los domingos y que nos acompañe em, pues a hacer todo este proceso de reforestación, de siembra, de cuidado del humedal, de los 7 espejos de agua que allí tenemos, porque son 7 espejos de agua o 7 lagunas o 7 chucuas, como les decimos en lengua muisca, que significa también vientre materno, ¿sí? Es el vientre de nuestra madre tierra. Em, y vamos y sembramos pues mediodía ya en una chucua, en el humedal o en este sitio sagrado para nosotros. Y ya luego en la tarde llegamos otra vez a nuestra casa de pensamiento y nos sentamos en círculo, o lo que le llamamos espiral de la palabra, a compartir medicina, a compartir palabra, compartir saberes, historias, y desde allí pues a generar una identidad también en la gente que nos visita, eh, a un cuidado también del territorio, de que recuerden también sus raíces y de dónde han venido, sus alimentos propios, que son de estos territorios, eh, y pues también tratando como de hallar esas herramientas pedagógicas y comunitarias para la enseñanza también de cuidado de estos sitios sagrados, para la enseñanza también de nuestra lengua materna que es el común, y la enseñanza también de cómo seguir cuidando estos sitios sagrados, como también lo decían varios compañeros y compañeras hace un momento. Acá también el alcalde y los alcaldes que han tenido la ciudad pues, han querido encerrarnos este humedal con malla eslabonada, con cemento, hacerle senderos en cemento. Nosotros nos hemos opuesto a eso, por eso también nos han querido sacar nuestra casa de pensamiento, desplazarnos, pero pues hemos generado también las articulaciones, los tejidos con otras comunidades en otras comunidades acá en Bogotá y en Colombia, para pues que no nos saquen, para poder seguir resistiendo y reexistiendo también las otras formas de vida que aquí habitan. Y pues bueno, eso, invitarlos a que en algún momento nos puedan visitar, eh, y sigamos pues, ahí tejiendo nuestras redes, invitándolos también a que nos sigan por las redes, por Facebook como Centro Experimental Juvenil, em, en
Gracias,
Facebook, y
David.
pues si hay la posibilidad y si sobra tiempo, de pronto compartirles un videito de 2 minuticos que también le compartí anoche a Susa. Y nada, infinitas gracias a Susa y a todos y todas por la oportunidad también de estar acá y compartir también pues nuestro legado, nuestro caminar. Bien chinga. Muchísimas gracias.
Bienvenido a esta comunidad, David, qué importante tu trabajo. Y por favor, en el chat, si puedes compartir con todos esos links para seguirte en las redes. Em, Thank you, David, for showing us your work and welcome to this community. I think what we have seen is the very many places on this planet where there are peatlands and how each peatland harbors custodians. So to all of you, peatland custodians, thank you for being with us at this meeting. I leave this space inspired, ready to continue to work. We will be reaching out to you. Thank you for registering. So those of you who are new and are hearing about the Venice Agreement more in depth for the first time, we now have your emails. We will be following up with you so that you can decide if you want to sign, want to have access to some of the documents, and also tell us more about yourself. And to those of you who are already have signed, you will be also receiving this kind of renewal of your vows. And that will be just a template that we will ask that you fill out. And yeah, we want to just leave this space with two things. I think we will share David's video, which we skipped over briefly. Can you have access to it,
You want
Anna?
to put it now?
Yeah,
because it's muted, so we can put it with the sound.
Well, so we will, yeah, what we will do is we will do a little bit of a hybrid. We will share David's video, so we will leave with images from the El Tunjo peatlands, and you will listen to an audio that was created with Raíz Común, and that comes with the Shelknam language. But that will be our sending off, and thank you everyone for your time. Muchas gracias. If anybody wants to just open their microphone and say, hola, chao, qué lindo verles. Es hermoso. And as you receive the emails, comments, questions, if you want to be the person presenting your work next time, I think that this holding community space to learn more about the activisms on the ground is what we will build this website out to be, as Susa said, and also the more we grow, the more we can share our ways of dealing with the challenges and creating livelihoods. So, gracias a todos y nos vamos con estas imágenes de el Tunjo, de las turberas de David y su comunidad, que estamos recién conociendo. Chao. Chao.
Ciao, ciao.
Chao.
Chao, chao, chao.
Chao.
Chao, hermana. Hola, Nico, hola, Bárbara, hola, Fernanda, hola, Anto, hola, Carla. Chao.